I forget how we're supposed to introduce you again.
Esports journalist Jason Krell. That's all you need.
I'm just going to say we picked up some weird guy off the street. His name's Jason. I think he writes in newspapers. Here he is!
Does he write in newspapers or for newspapers? Because those are very different things. Hello, everybody, and welcome back for episode 50 of Cup of Joes. My name is Joe Brown, joined by my best friend Joe Perry in here, and we have a special guest for this special occasion. One of my good friends via the internet and also real life. He is an esports journalist. We met in our we crossed paths while playing and being in the Pokemon community. Our good friend, who's living in the past out in Arizona right now, Mr. Jason Krell. How are you, sir?
I'm good, and just for the record, I like to think of it as if our eyes met, out in the world, Pokemon style, and then, we didn't battle because it's real life.
No,
we just shook hands.
We didn't battle, we became friends.
Yeah, right.
God.
Listen,
that was painful for Joe.
Jason,
it was a little bit.
Jason and I, we've had some memories, all right? We had some of the worst Italian North Carolina pasta I've ever had in my life.
Oh my god!
It was actually really bad.
It was really bad.
Bad as you think.
And then we had a lot of fun in Nashville for the World Championships. That was a good time. But we have more than enough time to stroll down memory lane with Pokemon. But we have a lot of other topics here that we brought you on for, Jason. Now, if you want to just introduce yourself to our audience a little bit and tell them about your esports journalism background and what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, sure. So right now I am getting my master's degree in sports journalism at the Walter Cronkite School at Arizona State University. That's the closest I could get to esports. I do like sports, but not really that much, so I'm kind of the odd duck in my cohort. And in the last semester, I'm about to graduate in December here, and in the last semester, you're working in what's called the professional program, where you're basically a paid journalist. Well, no, sorry, a working journalist. You're not paid. That's the important distinction. So right now, I write primarily for a site called Global Sport Matters. The sport is singular, the matters is plural, and they kind of look at sport in the context of like global society, business, culture, science, technology, all that stuff. And I've been able to write a lot about esports over there. I do a lot of freelancing. Well, not a lot of freelancing. I do a bit of freelancing. On top of that, I have written for Polygon.com. I've written for Kotaku. I'm actually working on a piece for SB Nation. That's pretty exciting. And I've written for I spent a year writing for TESPA, which is like Blizzard owns them and they run Blizzard's collegiate esports. I was writing for them for a year. So yeah, I've done a lot, and I'm going to go on and I'm going to be EJ journalist in the world and try and elevate the industry of esports journalism.
Now, that's all very exciting, but the most important question we have to ask you is, have you decided your starter yet for Pokemon Sword and Shield?
Oh, this is a very important question.
What kind of not a monster? What kind of a fool dares decide their starter before seeing the final evolutions?
A couple of them in chat right now with you.
The only other people? Well, that's fine. I don't mind talking. Bringing myself down to a lower. No, it's just you don't do. I never pick because you're gonna spend second of the game, 20 minutes into the game, I'm going to have them evolved, and then I never see that form again. So, I have ones that, I usually pick fire starters, although I haven't in a couple generations. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I got to see what their, the last forms are. That's who I'm going to be hanging out with most of the time.
Wow. So, basically, you're a fraud, because I knew from the beginning Score Bunny had my heart, and I'm a fire-type loyalist.
Oh, also, this is a really good batch of starters. So, if some of them were horrible, it'd make it a lot easier. But they're all really good. I could easily see myself picking any of them.
Man, Joe's got it all figured out.
Joe has already had his heart set.
I'm
Grookey?
stuck between two of them.
I thought you were Grookey Gang. Hashtag Grookey Gang.
Bro, first off, no. I am a fan of him, but I'm also a bigger fan of my good blue boy.
Sobble.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, we'll talk more about Pokemon at the end, but let's get into the let's start talking about esports and journalism, or compared to traditional journalism. Like I don't know if we give that that clarification or anything like that. Like I just got into an argument at work the other day with a guy who doesn't think esports are real or they're not sports. That cliche thing, and I was like, okay, but think of it as a traditional sport like baseball or basketball, and then a non-traditional sport like League of Legends or Overwatch or Street Fighter or something like that. So is Jason, in your mind excuse me, in your mind, do you see there is kind of a separation between traditional journalism and esports journalism, or are they under the same branch?
Well, I would say that the only separation that I see between like esports journalism and traditional journalism is just that there's like very little support or infrastructure. There's not a lot of money in it. Most of the sites are, I mean, relative to like most major media companies, like they're small, and as a result, they don't pay their writers anything and expect them to churn out a lot of stories that get very little editing, and the people who do it don't have much training, because someone who has a lot of training isn't going to accept $15-$25 for a story when they know that their time is worth a lot more than that, and they deserve to be paid more than that. Even these people with no with no training and who are just kind of writing like blog style content than actually doing journalism and talking to people, they still deserve to be paid more, because like the job is still harder than that. So I would say that the only separation is in terms of that. But at the same time, like there are places you can look to where there's really good esports journalism happening. ESPN has incredible writers. I mean, most sites have incredible writers that do good investigations and write good features, but ESPN definitely does the best. The Washington Post just created this new vertical called Launcher. Incredible things. It's not esports related, it's just gaming, but they do get into esports. Hopefully that trend continues, so that the more money that comes into the space, the more people are kind of able to afford and encouraged to get more formal training and actually doing more reporting, because it's just a lot of like news aggregation, which is fine. It's just not like the best kind of journalism that as an industry could be doing a lot more and need to be doing a lot more for the sake of fans who don't want to read the stories that we write about that, even though we need to be doing it.
Right. It's like the necessary growing pains of that section of the industry. Is like you have to get through this step. So they don't want to keep seeing these articles about how do we get through this step, but you got to get through it before you can move on to the other things.
Exactly. And I think we'll get there soon. Yeah, I don't know when. Hopefully soon, so because I'm graduating, so I'd like to live my life in a home.
Hey, don't get too cocky, all right?
Yeah.
Asking for such basic human rights.
Yeah.
Now I know you're also. Oh, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, dude, you gotta work hard and play hard too. I spend most of my money on video games, and a new thing is dice.
Oh my God.
Dice
For your D&D obsession.
If I had it my way, I would probably I would just spend my money on Commander or Magic the Gathering cards for Commander, which I never even have time to play with anybody. So, but no, I'm at that age now where I'm like, I just want to save my money. I don't even really have that much time to play that many video games. Certainly not like I did when I was like, or in high school or something like that.
No offense, but when I got a job after school, man, oh man, did I have time to play some games, because I wouldn't do anything besides that. Go to work, come home, eat dinner, play some games.
That was first Destiny when that came out. That was my thing. But now these days I got I try to. Well, I don't. I'm lying. I don't really exercise. But I have a girlfriend that I'll see. I have like friends. I like to go to bed at like 10 if I can now, and that's hard to fit video games in all there. Plus, half the time I'm just playing TFT a lot these days. So it's not even like I'm playing all these good like single player games that are coming out, even though I should be. I still have to finish up all the houses for Fire Emblem.
Same. I still haven't even beaten the first house. Oh my god.
Well, that's disgusting.
I know. I'm a disgrace.
Joe Brown, get on it. Come on.
All right, maybe I'll hop off. I'll just keep the podcast recording for you two to have a nice conversation about, and then I'll go play Fire Emblem.
Okay, yeah, cool. Go do that. And while you're gonna go do that, I'm going to hop in to this. Let's talk about this huge dumpster fire that has been going on for the past week and a half. It's called Fallout 76 subscriptions. Are we down for this? Who wants to talk about this a little bit? Yeah, I know you do, Joe Brown.
That's my answer.
Yeah, I know. Coming from the boy who bought the helmet himself, me. Let's talk about this, please.
All right, fill us in. You got the article.
Bethesda's about to throw all of their reputations out the window by offering a private server subscription that will cost you about $13 a month, which I think is insane. You can pay $13 a month, or you can pay $100 for the entire year, which is crazy town because the game isn't even worth that much money because it's so. I don't know if neither one of you has played this game, correct?
No, I love Skyrim, but I couldn't really get into Fallout for whatever reason. But I do keep an eye on it, but I don't play it. I heard it was not very good.
I just know there's a mutated dragon or something like that.
Scorched Beast, close enough. We can work with it. So just to give you guys a rundown. Like Bethesda's games are all about exploring big open worlds, usually a ton of NPCs for you to interact with. And they make these worlds like beautiful and just like all these side quests, and you just love to play it. And then they made this game, they made it open world, they made it beautiful, but they took all of the shit that made it good out. They took all the NPCs out.
You don't like wandering around a big empty room?
It wasn't empty. There was things in it for me to kill, but like there was no one to really talk to. You found audio logs, which at first I was like, yeah, this can replace it. Nope. Like it just like I don't know. And then they tried to make it better, and then they failed at doing that. I don't even remember what they did. I haven't played the game since it launched. So pretty much they're trying to redeem themselves. I don't know if you guys saw this I don't know if it was at E3 or something else. They announced they're having a battle royale mode that's coming in. And they announced all these other game modes that they're coming in with. And just like, all right, we're just trying to grab at straws to make this game good again. And now the thing that people have asked the most for, which is private servers so they can just play with their friends. Because when you play this game, you're online all the time with a bunch of people, which is 35 people to a server, and they could fight you if you want them to, and they could kill your character if they want to, because if you don't want to fight, then you don't have to fight them, but they can still kill you. So essentially, they finally did this thing where they're like, private servers, everybody, but you got to pay me for it. And everybody was like, all right, we'll try it, because they also offered like unlimited storage space, which was a big problem in the original game because there wasn't unlimited storage space for crafting components and like your power armor sets and all this other stuff. You get another survival tent, you get a whole new like area on the map that you can fast travel to. They give you allowance per month of like 1,650 atoms, which is the in-game currency that they have for the game. And then they also give you like a ranger set of armor that's like kind of like similar to the iconic Fallout New Vegas armor that was in that game. And then they give you like, some like icons and some emotes, which is great. And this recently launched. I think it was this week. Don't remember when exactly, but guess what, everybody?
What?
As Bethesda does, this stuff is busted and bugged as hell. People are already having issues with it. Apparently, one of the biggest issues they're having is that if you have a large friends list on this game. Anybody can see your private server, and anybody can join it if they want to. There's no way for that to be only invite only, even though it was said that it would be.
Some would argue that's not so private now, is it?
Oh, Joe Brown, I'm going to throw you in a river. That joke was great.
Yeah, it seems so weird to me, but like also not, because it's so predictable. And people, I guess, have to choose. Like, if they can choose to spend this money that seems like not a good use of money, but maybe they're the 4 people that like the game. I mean, like, you get a good amount of stuff, and they don't care about giving it to you because, like, you're on a private server, so you can't like ruin some like world economy. It's like your own little corner of the. But at the same time, it must take so little effort for them to like. I'm sure it wasn't easy to like set this up, but I'm sure it wasn't that hard. And like, I don't know, like they're charging like a lot. You buy the game and then you buy all this, and think that people are gonna pay time. I don't know. And then like also even the bug stuff. Like, I I don't know why anybody has any trust that Bethesda will release anything that doesn't have a bunch of problems.
Bugged.
It's like part of the charm.
Yeah. Well, the first issue that people had with this, which I think is kind of funny, is that they are asking for money for a thing that had been requested by all of the players playing this game. That they already had to play. They already had to buy the game. So why can't we just have private servers and not have to pay for it? Like, that was like the big,
very fair question.
That was the top like problem that people had.
Well, they probably spent a lot of money to make this game and then lost a lot of it when nobody bought it. I'm a journalist. When nobody bought it because it wasn't very good. So they're like, oh well, we don't want to go out of business.
Well, here was the other thing that baffled my mind when this first came out, because I bought it. I bought the collector's edition because I'm a punk, and I buy a lot of collector's editions. That's my thing.
It is what he does.
It is what I do. I will show you all of the collector's editions that I own. But the crazy thing was about this is I bought a physical copy, but I didn't get a physical disc for this game. No one got a physical disc for this game.
Yeah, because they're cheap. Because they didn't want to spend the extra $3 making the disc or whatever.
Well, they said it was for like some type of like environmental thing, but at the same time,
oh come on,
dude! They gave me a steel book with a round piece of paper in it that had codes on it. So I don't know. Another problem that people are having, one of the biggest bugs has to do with like their inventory scrap boxes, which is where all of your stuff is kept. Apparently, one player's having a problem, or multiple players are having this problem. They are putting stuff into this box, and everything is disappearing. It's not showing up in their main game. It's not showing up in their private world. It's not showing up in their inventory. It's nowhere. So people are. What?
They replaced the scrap box with a trash box.
They refer to it as a void box.
Oh, well, there's that too.
But I don't know what Bethesda thinks they're doing, and this makes me. I used to be like a very big fan of Bethesda's games. Like, I love Wolfenstein. I love the Fallout series, minus this one. I loved what is it called? Evil Within. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
The Corvo. What is that one? Dishonored.
Dishonored. Yeah, I love that game too. And it's just like they're kind of dropping the ball with this.
Well, I
want to know what my daddy Tom Howard's doing. What Todd, what are you doing to me, Todd?
Final Pam, and there's nothing he can do.
Joseph, I think this man needs to be on the podcast all the time if we're talking about Final Pam.
Okay, hold on, wait.
They promised that she was going to end all video games, and honestly, like, this is just that promise being fulfilled, mostly.
Well, I do think that the McElroy brothers do have something to do with this one.
Probably.
I would like to say that I think the meme I posted in our chat perfectly encapsulates the situation that Fallout 76 is in right now for all of our listeners is a photo of Mona Lisa, and it says gaming then versus now. In 1997, it was just Mona Lisa. You got the full photo for $50. Everything came in the package. And gaming now today is it's the same amount of content, but sliced up into multiple packages, and you're paying more content, or you're paying more for less or the same amount of content. And I think that's what the Bethesda's trying to get away with, because other companies like EA and Ubisoft and all these other big companies do these with their AAA titles. Like you talk about unlimited space and having a private server and all these things. I remember I was alive in 2007. I remember Forge mode in Halo 3. Like I remember being able to create a map and putting whatever items and guns and like obstacles in your map that you wanted. I remember like, you know, Minecraft. These are things that should come with games. And now it's like, oh, you want your own server? Well, now you need it for $13 a month, where it used to be for free. Oh, you want storage space? Well, now you need to give us $13 a month instead, where it used to just be an aspect of the game you were buying. And now it's just not how the industry treats itself anymore.
To that, because I have a lot of thoughts on this issue. And I do think that they're definitely trying to sell us a lot more odds and ends, and a lot of gamers buy them. But the thing that we also have to consider is that the price of games, like just a base game, has not gone up much in the past like 20 years, 10 years, I don't know, not very often. And they're only more expensive to make. They used to not be online, and granted, a lot of us, we don't want them to be online, but for various reasons, sometimes they need to be. And servers are expensive, and yeah, like I think there are certainly cases where things are predatory, and I certainly think that like companies aren't doing it in good faith. However, like there is something to be said about the fact that like we should probably be paying like $80 for a game, like just like as a starting point, because of how expensive it is. Like if we all banded together and said we're not buying games unless you don't do all this like extra DLC garbage, and you just give us the whole thing, and then we only wanted to pay $60, like all of our favorite studios would go out of business because it's just not sustainable. So I definitely see what you're saying, and I think that this Fallout 76 thing is a scrambling attempt to try and milk a little bit more money out of a clearly failed project. But I also think that I don't begrudge the companies that do it well for doing this, because I mean, you know, they got to stay afloat somehow.
I don't know. Yeah. I think this sends us down a whole different conversation rabbit hole about the cost of everything and yada yada. But like, if we want to look value for value, like Fallout 76, I think it's $40, right, Joe?
It was 60, but yeah.
Right, and it got lowered to 40 because of the terrible reception on it. But there's a game that just came out earlier this month called Indivisible, and I'm not sure if you heard about it. I showed Joe about it's the creators behind Skullgirls, the fighting game. It's like hand-drawn animation, like Cuphead style. So like every frame is drawn or whatever. It's a combination RPG and platformer. So like action adventure platformer. So like Metroid and an RP, like a RPG like combination like that. And it's very unique, and you have a rich, you know, like 20+ hour experience in it, and that is also $40. So it's hard, like, you know, I understand. And they took them 5 years to create it, because they had to draw every frame of animation because it's hand drawn. So that's what I'm saying. Like, look at the subscription, right? $13 a month or $100 for the year. Excuse me. What also gets you $100 is Amazon Prime. If you buy that for $100 a year, and you're certainly getting more content or value out of your Amazon's Prime subscription as you are compared to, what is it, Fallout 1 or what's it called, Joe? Sorry, I forgot.
It's like Fallout First.
Fallout First, right? You could do. I can see if this was $3 a month, something like that. You know, like where Spotify is like $5 a month if you're a college student. Sorry, I keep coughing. But like, I could see that being more reasonable, but for your bang for your buck just doesn't seem to be equivalent here for me.
No, I agree.
But that's not what he was saying. He was saying the first one, it looks like a grab for money. But for some other games, it's because I kind of agree with him. I kind of agree that, yeah, games are a lot different than what they used to be. Like, what is it? Like, some games now go for 20 plus hours, where games back in 1997 went for like 5 to 8.
Like
Not even.
You played Star Fox, and that, you had like 10 missions, and then you were done, and you could play it all over again, but like that took you like an hour and a half at the most,
Yeah, like,
And we paid, I don't remember,
$60.
I was a kid then, but like, yeah, we paid, like $40-$50 for that at the time, which was comparable to like 60 now. Well, 60 back in probably like early 2000s. So we get a lot more for our games. And I think that a lot of these places are predatory about it. There'll be some kind of standards that people implement as the industry keeps evolving that will fix it. Or gamers, they'll just like start charging more. I don't know how that'll go over, probably poorly, because gamers are angry people a lot of times, as often as they are wonderful people. But I would like to see them just try that. I'd pay $80 for a game. I'd buy less games probably, but I wouldn't feel that bad about it.
Yeah, I don't know. But speaking of,
well, Joe, did you hear he called you wonderful? He said gamers can sometimes be wonderful. It's a compliment.
Yeah, I'm a wonderful guy, and you are also a wonderful guy, Joe. Because you are also
Joe. What I meant by that was that Joe is wonderful and Joe is awful. You guys can find over who is which Joe.
Okay.
I'm awful. I know it.
No, don't you dare. You know what is awful though, Joe?
What?
Oh, the transition.
Oh, Joe.
I had a transition lined up, and you disconnected me from that transition.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I was getting so ready.
Last of Us 2 was delayed.
Oh my! Jason knows me so well. This is our commentary experience coming back to bite me because he understood what I was going for. It's very. So I apologize, Joe, but mine was it's sad that The Last of Us 2 has officially been delayed. What was your transition, Joe?
My transition was going to be, speaking of add-on to games, let's talk about the Destiny new add-on.
Oh, so we had different routes here.
We had 2 different routes coming.
Just like Star Fox 64.
All right, let's talk about the more depressing news to begin with. So we got lucky that this happened earlier this morning before we started recording. So I'm reading this off of an IGN article from Jonathan Dornbush that The Last of Us Part 2 has officially been delayed until May 29th, 2020. Now, I believe the original release date was February 21st, 2020, when earlier last month they had a whole blowout of Last of Us stuff for, I forget the holiday that it was called, based off of the Fireflies or whatever in-game. Like, it's like every September 26th or something like that. They celebrate it. So Neil Druckmann came out with a statement. We realized we simply didn't have enough time to bring the entire game up to a level of polish we would call Naughty Dog quality. The rest of his note, however, it was during the last few weeks as we were closing out sections of the game that we realized we simply didn't have enough time to bring the entire game up to a level of polish. I already said that one. Next sentence. At this point, we were faced with 2 options. Sorry, I read the same. I'm terrible. Compromise parts of the game or get more time. We went with the latter, and this new release date allows us to finish everything to our level of satisfaction while also reducing stress on the team. Excuse me. While we were relieved that we won't have to compromise our vision, we're disappointed that we weren't able to avoid this exact situation. We wish we could have foreseen the amount of polish we needed, but the size and scope of this game got the better of us. We hate disappointing our fans, and we're sorry for that. He continued on after that, but we kind of all get the gist of what he is saying. So basically, they said they had they hoped they were, I guess, too optimistic for the initial release date, and now they want to play it safe and they'd rather push it back a couple months. So my question to you, fine gentlemen, both of you, is does this upset you at all, this news that has been pushed back 3 months? Does it concern you at all? Do you think it's not a big deal? Are you happy that it got pushed back because that just makes you more confident that it'll be a good game? Like, give me your general thoughts on this this news.
Does our guest want to say something about this first?
I will say delay all games. Not forever, but like there's a reason that Naughty Dog and I think Sony games in general are just so well done, and that's because they take the time that they need. There's a million games out there to play, especially today. I don't need to play to like any sooner than it's absolutely ready to be released. I would get delayed than to end up with a Bethesda game. Since that's what we were talking about, and I think also the note that he made about trying to reduce stress on the development team, I think that's huge. I'm very like against the idea of crunch in any industry. To have like work-life balance, and they shouldn't have to kill themselves to make a video game. So I think it's great. Any bad feelings about it? And I think that anyone who does should probably. Okay, it's all right to be frustrated, but there's a million other games, even games that you probably bought and never played because we've all been there. And just play those games.
I definitely have a lot of games that I've bought.
Or read a book, or read some esports journalism written by Jason Krell. Whatever, you got a lot of options, is what I'm saying.
Okay, plug it yourself. Got it. I agree with you on that. Like whenever a game like a big game like this says, "Hey, we're delaying it just to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, make sure that we want it to be the quality that we want it to be," I'm like, go for it. I'm even more excited that you're willing to do this to make sure that your game is the way you want it to be. And that makes me more confident that this game's going to be as good as it's got. Like, from what we've seen of the game, it looks amazing. So how is delaying it going to cause it to become any worse than what it already is? Like, delaying it's just going to make it better, in my opinion. Like, I think it's going to be great. I'm excited to get back. I'm excited to get into it in May, though. I was a little excited when they were like, "Yeah, we're going to push it to May." I'm like, awesome, cool, because Watch Dogs 2 is coming out in March, and Cyberpunk comes out. Oh, did it? Oh my god!
Once that Watch Dog got delayed too.
Wow.
Go talk to him.
Oh, then let me
But Cyberpunk hasn't been delayed again yet.
Thank God.
If they did, it would be okay.
That's the hero we all need is Cyberpunk. If that gets delayed, we're all screwed.
Wait, when did Watch Dogs get delayed?
Legion?
When did it get what? Oh, it also got never mind. I'm looking at the wrong game.
Ubisoft delays Watch Dogs Legions. Let's see. With initial 2020 window until their next fiscal year, which runs from spring 2020 until spring 2021.
So they don't even have a date.
Oh, no. Yeah, so basically now it's just like any time between like April and next March.
Amazing. That's such a big gap.
Yeah, that is.
Well, it looks like apparently they're delaying multiple titles.
Yeah, it's not just that; it's a bunch.
I guess I'm in the minority in this situation, but I am disappointed that there was a delay, only because they set me up for failure. I didn't ask them to give me a release date. I've been waiting 5 years for them to tell us when The Last of Us Part 2 was going to finally be playable. They're the ones that told us last month it was going to be February. You know what I mean? Like, when they chose that February deadline, like, they easily also could have just said May and played it safe. So, like, they put the expectations into my head. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I did it to myself or something. So now I'm disappointed.
Well, why, yes, though? So somebody gave that date. Naughty Dog gave them that date, but it was their dad who told them to. And by their dad, I mean it was like Sony businessmen who were like, "We want a release date so that we can start advertising and getting people excited so that they'll start buying pre-orders And like they would have, if they had it their way, they would have said like, okay, we're like debugging the game and it's gonna be out in a month, like go nuts. But they had to do something, and game design's hard, So I get the disappointment, and yeah, in a perfect world, like everyone would always nail their release date.
Right.
It's gonna be okay, Joe.
Because it is possible. I mean, Death Stranding went gold in mid-September for an early November release. And everyone thought that game was going to get delayed. Like, Pokemon Sword and Shield is giving out their review copies now in October for a November 15th release. So, like, games sometimes do hit their release points. It's not, we're just so... True. We're so used to it, like, oh, it gets delayed, and then we have the cliche, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is bad forever, quote, even though every game literally that comes out today has a day one patch anyway, so that quote is irrelevant when people say it, because it's not the same thing as, like, it's not the same context of when Miyamoto said that in, like, the 90s, you know what I mean? Like, even God of War, which is like a 10 out of 10, had a day one patch to fix bugs. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just crazy because, like, I know Joe remembers we had this conversation, I think well over a year, like maybe a year and a half ago. Remember when one of the creative directors left Naughty Dog during the creative process for The Last of Us 2?
Yeah, I do.
And we discussed about that, like, is this a bad sign? Is this like, they didn't like the vision that the game was going into, and I guess I was more concerned than Joe was at the time. I didn't think it was going to be bad because I trust this team. Like, I trust Neil Druckmann and his crew. But, like, having one of the big creatives leave in the middle of the process, then we're getting a delay to try to fix more things. It does make me weary a little bit that it might still be a great game, but I'm looking for the quote again. In his own words, we realized this didn't have enough time to bring the entire game up to a level of polish we would call Naughty Dog quality. It might be a great game, but is it going to live up to The Last of Us Part 1? You know what I mean? That's where the concern is.
I mean, it's so hard to, like, recreate that standard. But I think if I recall, the person who left, I think they went to BioWare to go work on Anthem. I think they probably just got a lot of money to go do that. I don't know if that's 100%, but if I'm not mistaken, I think they probably just got paid a lot of money to go. So it's probably not like a knock against them, but it probably did, like, set them back because they had to maybe, like, direction changed a little bit after that. But I don't think it'll be The Last of Us, because release a game that good and then, like, do a sequel and then it's better or even just as good. Like, it'll probably be close. I mean, like, maybe no, you can't even say they did that with Uncharted 2, because Uncharted 2 was the peak. Uncharted was like a good game, but, like, it wasn't until Uncharted 2 that it was great, and then Uncharted 3 was not as good as 2. So, like, it's not going to be as good. But then going back to the other thing, there's always a million games. There's always another game that's great, and you can go play that if this one disappoints you, and it'll be a bummer for a little while. But then just have Pokemon.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joe Brown, if this doesn't work out, you just always go back to playing Pokemon.
We know you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to play this game for like 2 hours and be like, all right, I'm going to go play with my good old sword dog.
I'm going to go Gigantamax my Butterfree.
Hey, wait, real quick. Are you getting Sword or Shield? I forgot.
I'm getting Shield.
Yeah, okay.
Jason, you getting Sword or Shield?
I need all the information out, but I was originally, like, super hardcore Sword, but actually I think I'm, like, leaning towards Shield these days.
Bro, just because I want that ghost gym with what's his name?
Alistair.
Oh, yeah,
Alistair? Yeah, I'm down with that. I'm down to clown.
Listen, I just like Tyranitar, and
that's exactly what I was about to say. There's no choice. Tyranitar is a Shield exclusive.
Yeah, it's actually just Tyranitar. I mean, like, Galarian. I like Galarian Ponyta more than in general, like, as well. But, like, no, it's mostly Tyranitar.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's continue our conversation because we want to try to get through as much of of these topics as we can while we have Jason with us. So let's move on to Riot's 10-year anniversary stream. This happened last week, where they kind of set it up in a similar fashion to a Nintendo Direct, where they went from like producer to producer and talked about different topics, but the only thing they were missing in their transitions were the Switch snap sound. But besides that, it was pretty much like a Nintendo Direct, but for Riot Games. And I know, Jason, you wrote an extensive piece on this, so if you want to give us your thoughts on the situation with their 10-year anniversary and stream and everything like that.
Yeah, so, and thank you for the shout out for the article. I just shared it here in case other Joe, main Blastoise avatar Joe, hasn't had a chance.
Cooler Joe.
Yeah, so basically, League announced an incredible amount of stuff. People were thinking we'd get like one or two things. But they actually.
Many words.
It's like 2,400 words. It's actually like no one.
You want me to read this book? Do I get a bookmark with it or something? What am I doing here?
That's okay. I wrote it, but not for anyone to actually read. Or it's like in sections. You can just like skip to the part that you're interested in too. Because there's a lot of games. They announced like games and like two other things that aren't even games. And they even had a thing that they didn't even include in the Direct. They put out a documentary on Netflix that they didn't even talk about. I didn't
even know.
People were like, "What? There's a documentary too? You didn't even say anything." And so like that's out there. But anyway, let's just go down the list. First things first. What's not in the article was the anime. They announced that they're creating. It's not literally an anime, I guess, depends on your definition. But they're making a animated series about League of Legends. We don't know many details or what it's about. I think we saw that like Jinx may be involved, which I'm sure has Joe excited.
Yeah.
But details.
Jeez
so
Louise.
like
I'm an ADC main, all right, Joe. What do you want from me?
You're a what man?
I'm an ADC.
That's not the alphabet. Just kidding. I know League.
A marksman. Sorry, I used the
God.
proper terminology.
ADC.
I knew what you meant. You're an attack damage carry.
No, I know what he meant. I'm just like I'm sure he has no idea where they place on the field in the Summoner's Rift.
Bot lane. What are you talking about?
Bot lane? And ADC's going top by themselves.
What on earth are you talking about, Joe?
Oh yeah, because you played League of Legends.
I did play League for like 4.5 years. Can we get back to the story, please?
We get back to you lying.
Get back to the story that Joe's not going to read.
So there's the anime. The other thing that they announced is that they're basically making like, it finally happened where they took an esport and then made a game of the esport, like not League of Legends, but you can like it's called like League of Legends Manager.
Oh right, like the soccer one and the
it's
baseball one.
It's called League of Legends Esports Manager, right? Where you manage a team of League of Legends players competing in, like the LCS or the LEC or whatever region you want. Probably the LCK because that's the one that actually matters. But so like that's kind of cool. I think I'd play that. It's like 2K or like Dynasty mode or something where you're just a team manager. I don't think you actually, you don't actually play League of Legends, which is all well and good for me because I'm awful at that game, so I don't do that. But there was that, and then there were a bunch of more typical games. The first one that's already kind of people have played was Legends of Runeterra. It is a digital collectible card game. Standard fare, build your deck. There's different factions, good stuff. It's kind of like if Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering had a baby, but Riot Games was the surrogate mother. Whatever that means. So they had what they called the preview patch where they gave people permission, a small amount of people, the ability to play, get in and play it, and it was fun. It was pretty good. It's still pretty early, but it was fun. And I think the more significant thing and what I talk about in my article was that by all these announcements that I think that Riot Games is opening themselves up to the potential to expand into other esport markets. So Hearthstone, in terms of like card games, the main ones are Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering through Arena. They both have their own leagues with like hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on the line every year. Lots of players, not as many viewers as like tier 1 esports, but a company with Riot's finances and experience in esports and infrastructure that was successful on its own, they could probably easily launch that into an esports league that would probably be more successful than both Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering. And so I think that there's certainly the potential for that. A lot of pro like Hearthstone players got their hands on the games and they had pretty good things to say about it. And it's just kind of nice to know that like Riot Games can make a second game and do a good job. I mean, obviously they hired a lot of people who have experience making card games to do this instead of just being like, you champion designer, you're making a card game now. Or maybe they did, who knows? People have all kinds of talents. But I thought that was pretty good.
Next game, I think that game has a lot of...
Yeah.
No, I just want to say that game has a lot of potential. Like, from the way they designed it, it's like they didn't do it as a cash grab because Riot doesn't really need an incentive to make other games. They're making these other games because they want to. Because, like, they can make enough off of League of Legends and TFT or whatever. But, like, the guys in that video were like, we wanted to make a fun card game with our characters, and we're not going to have RNG screw you out of getting the cards you don't want, and, like, you're not going to have to buy these loot packs or whatever. Like, you just buy the cards you want or whatever. If you open a pack and you don't want one of the cards that's in there, you're able to change that based off the in-game income to one of the cards you do want and stuff. So it seems like a very, like, user-friendly version of a card game.
Yeah, you just kind of unlock cards from different regions as you go, and it's like they have wild cards in Magic where you can just kind of turn it into whatever card you want, and it's good. And they did do some things in terms of like how often you draw cards and like the size of your deck to minimize like the odds that you don't hit something. Like you still can definitely get. I think I didn't play that many games, but I played a fair amount, and I think I only got like completely unmanageable hand like one game. So that was good. And the other thing that's nice about it is that like in Hearthstone, I think Hearthstone, and one of the good things about Hearthstone is how accessible it is and how easy it is. There's no interactions on the player, like opponent's turn. Like one person plays, then the other person does. But there is a back and forth in this game, and that's one of the reasons why, like me personally, I could never really get into it because I grew up playing Magic where, and I'm a filthy blue player for those who are listening who knows. I like to play counter spells. I like to play the game by myself while you watch.
That's a good description of it.
Like you can kind of, not a whole lot, but like there are ways to play control in a more traditional sense in Legends of Runeterra, and that's what I did, and it worked, and so I'm very happy about that.
I'm telling you, the one I'm most excited about, Jason, before you finish it off, is the fighting game. That one gets me so excited because the biggest problem that fighting game communities see is a lack of support from the developers. And Riot is not going to release a game that they're not going to support. Like, it's not like how Capcom just threw Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite into the wind and let it die. Like, Riot is going to patch it. They're going to fix all the problems. They're going to have a huge pro scene. Like, that fighting game, even though we only saw, like, 4.5 seconds of it, that got me so excited to see.
Yeah, and so that one right now is being called Project L, and basically what happened was a long time ago, there was this game called Rising Thunder that was being developed by this studio that the founder of Evo, Tom Cannon, started, and they basically bought that studio and like took the guts of Rising Thunder and are making it into a League of Legends fighter. It's really exciting in a lot of ways because if it is a popular game, because like I don't think Riot's going to invest unless the game is actually popular, but if it is a popular game and there is a desire to see an esport, it'll be a very different kind of fighting game environment than what we see a lot. Because you're right, like players all the time complain like there's no real prizing. Like you can win Evo and like walk away with like a few $1,000s, which is ridiculous. That's like the highest level of tournament you can The other thing to consider that I have seen some people talking about online, like pros in the fighting scene, is talking about like they're like Riot, like without, with developer support, you have to make concessions. Like they're going to have different rules and things you can or can't do that these players are not used to. They're very used to being able to be themselves and express themselves however they want. And now they're going to have like consequences. So not that they don't have consequences already, but it'll be very different. And I think some are maybe hesitant about that. But on the whole, I think it'll be exciting. And I'm excited to see who gets involved and how they do. I want to see Sonic Fox smack some people up at this game.
Yes, that'd be funny. And he would choose like some degenerate character too to do it to people.
They'll pick something good, and
he'll be Teemo.
So great. Yeah.
Don't diss Teemo. He knows what's up.
And then the last game that they mentioned was not League of Legends related at all. It's set in a different universe. It's called Project A, and it is described as what is a stylish, competitive, character-based tactical shooter for PC. And so they only showed a little bit of footage, and the way some Rod Breslaw Slasher at Slasher on Twitter, he's a esports insider, he said that a lot of people described it as a mix between Overwatch and Counter-Strike, and it's clear that like they're trying to move into that market. But then one of the developers on the project, Greg Street, he said that like yes, it is to Overwatch, but it's a tactical shooter with high lethality. So that means it'll take a couple hits. Overwatch, obviously, a lot of characters are a lot more survivable. The abilities are kind of more about utility, moving around. We don't know a whole lot of details, but it really like the gunplay is going to be king there. And I think that's also exciting because a lot of people, I love Overwatch, but a lot of people are frustrated by it, and the rate, the slower rate at which it updates is balanced. People in Counter-Strike love Counter-Strike, but the scene is a little unstable. You just had NRG sell their whole roster and just get out of the game entirely because there's no developer support. It's not franchise, so the money's not consistent. Player salaries are outpacing like what you're able to bring in as a team. And so again, I think like Riot can come in and create a Counter-Strike like game that those like esport like players can transition to if they want and have like a similar experience but in a more stable environment. And then the Overwatch fans can get just as updated faster, and obviously it's going to be very different than Overwatch, but I think like it will be enjoyable. People say that it's good so far. Excited to see what happens if only just for like more competition. So that is what Riot had cooking in their League 10 announcement, and it's a lot of stuff.
It is a lot. You wonder why. Like, did they just have this newfound idea to branch out? Have they been working on this for a long time? I wonder why. Nintendo has a direct every 4 or 5 months, and they say like, here's what's up with Yoshi, and then they say here's what's up with Luigi, but like they waited like 8 years, and it's like here's all of these things at once.
I think they there's a lot of jokes about they were Riot Games, but they only had the one game. But see, what's the best way to put this? I think they just didn't want to talk about things until they were ready, until they knew, and I think they were really excited to reveal it all at once. You don't really get to see that very often these days. So, and it was a huge surprise for a lot of people. Some news broke online before the stream, but a lot of people who were watching were completely caught off guard. So they wanted to make sure that it was ready. So I think that's why they did it this way instead of just kind of letting it trickle out over time.
Yeah, I just want to say as a Jinx fanboy, she's in the animated show. She's on the cover of the card game. She's shown as one of the 4 revealed characters in the fighting game. It's a good time to be a Jinx fan.
Where's Aurelion Sol?
Where is my boy Malzahar? I need him back in my life.
Asol is in hell where he belongs for ruining all of my TFT games.
Joe, Malzahar's in the new TFT set.
Oh my god, I haven't played him yet.
Malzahar was my favorite. I was good at chaining all them boys together. He had such a good moveset to destroy one person if they got too close to you. I loved it.
He looks like a carry so far, and he makes a lot of little boys.
Oh yeah, that was a new. They changed him.
Yeah.
My first game playing Set 2 on the PvE, my brother and I were playing, and we got a 3-star Kiana like right away in our first game. I guess people didn't understand that, like, you know, a 4-cost assassin is good in TFT or something. Like, they forgot about Akali.
Right. Oh, she's 3-cost, but I know what you mean.
Oh, she's 3-cost? Okay. But still,
I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
That's okay. That's okay.
Don't worry about it. It's Rise of the Elementalists or whatever.
We can move on from Riot and all their games.
Okay, let's do that. Let's move on
Let's move on from Riot and all their games, and let's move towards Pokemon and all of their non-Pokemon games.
Ooh, is that a national Dex joke? Because they don't include all of the Pokemon in it?
Yeah, I was kind of going with that. I was trying to do that, but then I said it and it didn't make any sense.
You're
got
right.
you.
I don't think I did, but that's okay.
All right,
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
They're not putting all the Pokemon.
Oh right,
in
no.
the game.
Oh, I know. Yeah, right.
Even though I don't care that they're not doing it, because
yeah, I don't care either.
I think it's very silly. People are getting this mad about it, but that's just...
There's a lot of Pokemon that suck, like that aren't fun or good to use. And like, yeah, all right, there's like 4 people out there whose like favorite Pokemon is Dunsparce, but like,
oh my god!
like,
wow, the Dunsparce army's gonna come after you hot after this one, Jason.
Man, they're not gonna listen to our podcast.
Let them come.
Yeah, you know what? In your Pokemon career, you've dealt with a lot worse than the Dunsparce army, I can say.
It's true. Well, watch Dunsparce now get revealed in the game, and then I just look dumb. And he has a Gigantamax.
Yeah, right. He's like huge in VGC. But let's have our general thoughts, because, you know, I don't think we've had other, besides when we had our friend Adam come on. Besides him, we haven't really talked with other big Pokemon fans like myself and Joe, who's a semi-fan. So we have Pokemon Sword and Shield coming out November 15th. Excuse me. I'm sorry for coughing the whole day. I'm trying to turn away from it. Whatever. But you know how weather changes and everything gets you sick. It's out unless, yeah, like when it gets hot and then it's cold and it's hot.
It's a joke in Arizona weather.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know what else? You know what else doesn't change in Arizona? The time.
Ooh.
We got daylight savings, and I wish no one else had it. Please help us.
I totally forgot you were Arizona for a second.
It's not a diss. I don't like that we continue to do this weird thing.
It is very dumb. That's one of the few things that happens in Arizona that I'm okay with. Come on. November 15th.
Yes, thank you. November 15th, Pokemon Sword and Shield is out. Now, Jason, you and I are both old enough to remember way back in 2017 when Pokemon Sun and Moon were coming out with the new generation. And is it just me, or did it feel like there was a lot more hype as a community or as a gaming group as a whole for when that generation was coming out compared to the one that's going to be the first ever console release of a main series game, which is Sword and Shield?
Well, the reason for that is because they basically gave us the entire game before Sun and Moon came out. And a lot of people complained about that. I personally absolutely loved it.
I loved it.
If you said, we're going to make Sun and Moon and it's coming out in a year, here's literally the whole game, but you can't play it, I would be like, great. Give me a whole year to just sit on all this information. And I would be okay with that because I just want to know. People didn't like that. They actually thought it had spoiled the game for them and it took away some of the fun. And so I think this time they're taking a different approach. And, it works for some people. I think there is a part of me that is surprised. Like, I do want to know what the starters look like. But
how do we not have that, Jason? How do we not even have the middle evolutions?
I don't know. I think that's pretty wild. The game comes out in a month. Maybe they just won't even show us, which would be crazy. I mean, data miners will.
Did you see the playmat? The LAIC playmat today?
Oh, did it get leaked?
No. Someone posted this is the playmat for Latin American internets, and it's Scorbunny, Sobble, and Grookey instead of what it should be, which is the 3 fully evolved versions of it. But we don't know that information.
Yeah, they're being being really intentional about this. And it's like, it's okay, I guess. But it does, yeah, it's a lot less hype. Like, you can't talk about it as much because there's nothing to talk about. All you can do is say, can't wait to play their Pokemon game.
Right.
And yeah, and that's fine. It's like, it's an approach. But I think in society, like, it's better to just be upfront with this kind of stuff. Like, that in probably 1 week from today, gotten their hands on a review copy and like uploaded the game like to Citra or something and like online, and it's like a cracked version and that just gets completely data mined, and we'll know every new Pokemon, all their stats, all their moves in the game. Like, we'll know it all. So like, just don't hide it. Like, make that part of their announcement and make it fun. And also, like, give people a way to opt out if they don't want to see that. Like, just don't, tell them that it's, and like mute that from their Twitter. But I certainly wish that I knew more.
Yeah, I just don't understand like their marketing approach. I guess is like, so they have a 24-hour live stream. Joe, did you hear about this?
Yeah, this
Pokemon held a 24-hour live stream where they went with Sonia, who's the professor's assistant, into the wild to try to catch the Galarian Pokemon in their natural habitat. Right, Joe?
Okay, I didn't see this. But
so it was literally pretty much a still framed image with soft ambient music in the background of a forest for 24 hours. And at one point in the 24 hours, a Galarian Ponyta came across.
It came out a few times in bits and pieces. Like, it poked its head out but yeah, they revealed one Pokemon.
Pokemon in 24 hours. And the worst part about it, everyone was super hyped. Oh, My Little Pony, this really cool. It looks like, we're going to get a Fire Fairy Pokemon. It took them 4 days from after the 24-hour live stream to tell us that it's actually a mono psychic Pokemon. Like, you would think the moment they revealed it would be, here's this awesome Pokemon we just found out. So the whole community had already decided that this was a fairy Pokemon and started thinking about the ramifications of it. And it's like, and it's, it's like Slowpoke Pokemon. Like, oh, by the way, it's a psychic type. We could have told you that 4 days ago.
And also, like, at least in the fire part of it, like, I did see people saying it was a fire fairy, but like, it didn't do anything that implied it was fire. But
correct.
Yeah, I agree.
But a unicorn is kind of fairy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I get why people were disappointed. And I mostly feel bad for Joe from Cerebi, who literally stayed up and watched the entire thing straight because his job is running Cerebi.com, and like, he had to make sure that he got everything as soon as possible. But
an hour and 47 minutes in, the left brush moved a little bit. Like, that's what people were doing.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Meanwhile, I'm still wondering what Scorbunny evolves into, and they want me to watch a 24-hour live stream of just for Galarian Ponyta.
Scorbunny is just going to evolve into a giant foot. It'll just going to lose the rabbit parts, and it'll just be a foot. The first foot Pokemon.
All right, so let's talk about the competitive aspect as we're wrapping up our episode here, Jason. So you and I both play VGC, and we're very involved within that community. What do you think of the new items that they showed us at the World Championship? And then the other main aspects of this generation, which is like Dynamaxing, Gigantamaxing. Like, what do you think competitively of Generation 8 right now?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to depend on like the final decks. Like, if batch of Pokemon, then I think it's going to be really good. But like, if we have Incineroar, it could, like, doesn't matter how many new things they add in, like, it could just be still really centralized. So it's hard to say, but I do think that I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far. The items look really good. Like, room service, that's the Trick Room one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Room service looks like a really important tool that like we were lacking. The one that switches you out after you lower your own stats, or actually, I guess any of your stats.
Oh yeah, ejection pack or whatever.
Yep. And so like that's great. I think hopefully there's more stuff like that. I think it'll be really exciting. I'm really curious to see and Gigantamaxing has in VGC. I think there have been some people who've said that it's not going to be usable in competitive, but I think that that's ridiculous. Pokemon has never come out with a form change or a mode that hasn't been usable in.
Right. Why would they not use it? It doesn't make any sense.
They did Pokemon and Me. Like you couldn't have like the thing where you'd randomly like the Pokemon you spent time with would like get a stat boost or like survive a hit. But like every other thing has been in the game, and I don't think it warps it that much. It's certainly to like a thought involved that kind of harkens back to the old days of VGC where you didn't know you didn't like get team preview. You didn't see like because now anyone can Mega Evolve. So before you would see now anyone can Dynamax or
right.
Gigantamax. You don't need an item for it. So before, all right, that's definitely who is gonna Mega Evolve.
Right. If they had Kangaskhan, you know it was gonna Mega.
Yeah, no one's running like regular Kangaskhan. And yeah, like now maybe if you see a Butterfree, like no one's running regular Butterfree or no one's running regular Charizard, but like if the game starts early and you knock out their Charizard before they can Gigantamax it, they could just Dynamax any other Pokemon on their team and like could still get some advantage off of that. And I think that creates a kind of cool level you didn't have before. And it'll hopefully mean that like matchup dependent. Like you can be flexible around other matchups. I actually think that's probably the best side of it is that like the way it is now, in certain metas, it can be like matchup roulette. If you get the wrong one, you just straight up lose. But now, if you have kind of a balanced team, you have a much easier chance if you Dynamax or Gigantamax a different Pokemon on your team than you intended. And I think that that's really good.
Okay. I approve of your optimism, Jason.
Thank you.
Because I, for the most part, don't share it. I'm a little concerned.
Contrarian, Joe.
Because I've had this conversation with we've run in the same circles, right? So
well, I don't run, but yes.
I don't. We walk in the same circles. So like with our good, my good friend Brendan Lewis, who you're familiar with as well, it's all like, oh well, it's not going to be that significant of a game mechanic. Or I think I was talking with Tommy about that, where he's like, the increase isn't significant enough for it to be overbearing. And it's then my counter argument to that is, well, if it's not significant enough of a mechanic, then why is it the main mechanic? Like, you get what I'm saying, compared to Mega Evolution and Z moves, which were drastically impacting the metagame. If the Dynamax, it only increases your stats by 20%, it's not as big a deal as you think it is, or you're worried about. But then why is it the main mechanic of the generation?
It's not just that. I think it is super significant. Like, yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I think it's drastic.
There's like good things. The stats don't go up except your HP, so that makes it a lot less like busted. Like the math is better, but things that are significant, like you can't get faked out. So like you're not going to lose a turn from fake out. You can't protect through moves. So like this new Butterfree, like yes, I don't think that of like maybe Dark Void coming back and like putting both Pokemon to sleep, like, and you can't protect through it, right, seems really scary. But for like most of, it's just going to be like damage, like reliable damage you can't protect through, but you can still knock the Pokemon out. Although I think it'll be a really silly when like a regular sized Pokemon shoots its little Hydro Pump and like at a giant Charizard and it knocks it out.
Yeah,
like,
right. Tiny Rock for Rock Slide at gigantic right. Charizard.
Exactly. So that might be a little weird, but I think that like the happy medium between Mega Forms, Mega Evolution, and Z moves, because like both of them in theory I liked, but in practice I think that there were certainly some problems. So hopefully they've learned from that.
I told this to Brendan also, that you got to watch out because Gothitelle is in this regional dex. It's been confirmed. So last time Gothitelle was in a regional dex in 2014, Gothitelle Mawile was a pretty polarizing combination that dominated the second half of that format. So all I'm saying is, if Masuda-san is listening to our podcast, include some nice dark and ghost types in the Galarian Pokedex for us to deal with Gothitelle, please.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about.
I'm game for that. I mean, I like Shadow Tech, but I know what you're. But I'm also a degenerate, so.
You know what? At least you own it. I respect that about you.
I will always own it.
You own your own degeneracy. And on that note, I don't know if there's a better way to transition out of that one. But thank you so much, Jason, for joining us here on Cup of Joe's. It's been a blast. We really appreciate you coming on, talking about esports and journalism and Pokemon and things with us.
Happy to come back anytime. I love to talk.
All right.
I also just want to remind both of you that I am also still in this chat. So
I was just gonna say, sorry, Joe, that like you haven't said anything.
Oh, Joe, what are your thoughts on Gigantamax Butterfree?
Hey man, live that best life. Chase that bliss. Chase that Butterfree.
Good talk. All right, take us home, Joe.
All right, everybody. This has been another episode of Cup of Joe's. I have been your host, Joe Perry, and accompanied by my best friend, Mr. Joe Brown. And we will see you next week on another episode of Cup of Joe's.